Hey guys, it's Joe with Joe Shrimp Shack. How are you guys doing this morning? I want to say hi to some people that's here. Fishing Tantics, good morning. Monster Fish Gal Lori, my awesome moderator, good morning. Good morning. She has all my links up there. She's got my Instagram up there. She has my Discord. She has my Twitch. She's right on track and everything. She's even got my TikTok, which I don't do that much on there. There's a Facebook group right there. Oops, I need to put this on silent. There's my website, of course. We have the Fish 2 Mafia t-shirts for all the shows that we go to. And here's the link for the fishtubers.com. Who else do we have in here this morning? We have... So I said I got my coffee. She came back and says I got my coffee too. And then, of course, I came back and said I got my peanut butter cookies. And, of course, she's got to one-up me and says, hey, I got this homemade blueberry coffee cake, which is so much better than mine. And then we have Bowl. Good morning, Bowl. We have Jake here. Coffee's right. I got it right here. We got Shrimp Culture here. Now, I'm going to kind of pop this off right here. And they just hopped on. So I have a special guest. They're driving and they're en route. So it's one of those things where we can drive and still talk at the same time. So we have a super special guest. I've worked with him before in the past. It's a great guy. We actually have, see if we can pop it up here. Boom! We have Jim Colby from the Aquarium Guys. He's also a fish wholesaler. He's actually driving to the airport to pick up some fish. Hey, Jim, how you doing?
Good morning.
Good morning. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pop up your guys' link right here. So let me just go over here. So this is the Aquarium Guys. They're what is your rank still on the podcast? Are you still guys ranked number one for aquatic podcasts?
Yeah, we're back and forth between 1 and 2 all the time. And if we put out some new stuff, we go back up to number 1. And we've been really poor about getting stuff out here recently. So
nice.
It's back and forth.
So everybody's looking at this. You have 93 podcasts up right now. They vary from like I remember back when we did it before. It's way back. It says back in time. So if you go back in time, we were talking about setting up a fish room. There it is. Featured Joe Tyson from Joe Shrimp Shack, Freshwater Shrimp, part 2. There's just a lot of podcasts that you guys do. It's local people from Minnesota, which I love you guys. But it's, the Aquarium Guys, or it's aquariumguyspodcast.com. Let me go back over my stream right here. Boom, pop it over there. There's Adam. There's Adam's face right there. We all love Adam. Adam hides behind a blanket so he doesn't have no feedback coming back. So do you know anything that's in store for the Aquarium Guys, or?
Yeah, we've actually been. Rob took another job, and he's been working out of his house now as an IT for another company, and he's been lining up some guests here. So we've got 3 or 4 guests lined up for the next 30 days, and we're pretty excited about that. Rob, him and his wife had a baby, and then he switched jobs, and then all kinds of crap happened and stuff. So we kind of fell off the radar for a while, but now we're coming back, and hopefully we can start cranking out some more stuff.
Which is great because you guys are located up in Pura, Minnesota, right where my dad used to live. He used to live up there. He moved down.
Yes. Yes, it was good to see your dad last summer when we stopped by the shop there.
Yes.
But yeah, he used to live about 6 or 8 miles north of me.
Yep.
Something like that.
So not only that, but he's also going to show up for this event, and you have made a conscious decision. You, as a fish wholesaler, are going to show up to the event as well, right?
Yes, we're going to bring in some interesting stuff. We're also going to bring in some planted cholla wood. Joe was gracious enough to get me some cholla wood, and we've been putting a nubius in it.
I have another box of it here for you, too.
Oh, that's right. I better get up there. And I got a huge box for you. I'm popping it up right here. Boom. There it is. There's the event that we're talking about. It's going to be June 3rd at Joe's Shrimp Shack. We have a lot of Facebook groups that are actually being a part of this. We have Minnesota Planted Tank Aquatics. We have Minnesota Fish Keepers in there. I did offer Minnesota Aquarium Society to go over and partake by having a booth here. They haven't got back to me on this. Who else? There's actually another bigger page that they normally do. I'm opening up to everybody. I'm just going to go over and let it all out. So Minnesota Plantarella. I've been talking to
the owner of Minnesota Plantarella, which is Linda. She's a really good friend of mine. She did the last event over at her house when Chris Lukup came. She's actually thinking about bringing her group event to our event because they normally do it at a brewery. They usually bring about 500 people to the event. So right now, if they sign on to this saying, hey, we'll co-sponsor this with you, there's like 500 people just right there. So it's a lot of things. A lot of houseplant people still have aquariums and stuff. But yeah, we're right now, what's in the mix for this is I checked out pricing on tents. I spoke to my landlord about having it here. She's completely fine with it. I'm allowing the pages itself to come up with their own idea of stuff. So like I asked Minnesota Planted Tanks to go over and come up with something plant related because they're a plant group. Something whether it's an aquascape contest, whether it's talking about fertilizer or whatever, and I allow them to plan everything and then come back to me with what they're gonna do, what they need to do this, and I can then post it. So I've had some people ask me, like, it seems like there's not that much planning. There's a lot of planning behind the scenes, and I have to allow these pages to come up with what they want. They have to reach out to their moderators. They have to reach out to their people, and they have to get back to me. So I just made this announcement last week. It's only been a week, guys. It's going right on track. I made a group event on my Facebook page. If anybody wants to join it, to go over and see if they're going to go on that. So, but I know Jim's going to it. You got to have Jim.
I'll be there.
Of course you're going to be there. You came to my soft opening, so.
You know what I'm excited about is that every time we do one of these events, we meet so many cool and great people. And it is just super exciting just to meet these people. My wife comes along. My wife's also a fish nerd. She's also a nurse. And she comes along and she tells me she works the table and watches me visit with people. So she takes all the credit and all the money. So I guess that's just all fine and dandy. But
yeah, my dad comes and he actually sees me, in my little area. The thing is, I'm happy about it. That's what it is. Is my family look at it like, hey, Joe's happy with what he does. If Joe's being happy with what he does, it's super cool. I like it. I really, really enjoy talking to people and trying to help people out. Where this came from is I had a local. Here it is, right here. I was waiting for it to pop up, and she's right on top of it. There it is, right here. So it started as. I'm trying not to give out names because he's still a minor too. There was a gentleman that went to one of our last events back in prior to COVID. And he was going to all the Minnesota Aquarium Society in-person events. He came to my store to interview me for school for starting a business. I talked to him. He interviewed me. And then all of a sudden he said, hey, Joe, I really miss our in-person events. Mass used to have in-person visits. Now they're not doing them anymore. They canceled the Minnesota Expo on there. We haven't done a barbecue in a while. This really sucks. And then I went over and I thought about it, and there's another customer I have that their kid was kind of getting picked on in school, and he turned to aquatics to kind of relax, kind of have fun, and we all kind of accepted each other. So then it lit a fire underneath my butt. And then I started contacting all these pages. Hey, this is what I want to do. Do you want to be a part of this? And everybody's like, awesome. Yes, by the way, Edge, I am here today. I'm literally here. But I really wanted to go do that, so it may seem like it's a little early in the event and there's going to be more posted. I have to, my biggest thing is I have to know how many roughly people are going to be here. Because it's an event right now, or it's a barbecue. So the thing is, but if 1,000 people show up, I'm not having a barbecue. That's way too many hot dogs. You know what I mean? 1,000 people's roughly about 1,500 hot dogs. That's a lot of hot dogs to barbecue. At that point, if Minnesota Plantarella signs on with me, I'll probably contact people for a food truck and then have some hot dogs on the side, for the local people that wanted a little barbecue and stuff. Someone was gracious enough to go over and say if we do have a barbecue, that they would sponsor the hot dog buns or hamburger buns. I'm not going to say who, but he's literally right here.
Right here.
Right there.
Here.
right there.
I will bring hot dog buns.
What's that?
I'll bring you hot dog buns. I'll bring you hamburger buns. I'll bring you some Twinkies.
Now, the last time that you did a show, you guys brought horned knee rights that everybody loved. Right? What else was people asking about?
If we had any more candy.
Well, besides candy, come on, everybody has candy. Hey, sir, do you have any candy for me?
I tell you, I think there's a guy over at Joe's Shrimp Shack table. I won't say which one, but he ate most of my candy. He really did. Didn't you, Joe?
I always have candy. That's the thing.
Yeah.
So keep in mind, guys, that he is driving. He's got the phone situated up right there. So
if you're looking at my nose, I apologize.
That's okay. I always have candy. I always have stuff for my drivers. That's the biggest thing. But today we wanted to talk about shrimp and everything aquatic related. This was aquatic related, so I'm going to kind of like bloop, pop that off right there. Let's see who else is Corey. Corey came in. Corey is a master breeder right here, so he gets a good discount off. So I do have membership on my page that gets you discount on my store. The link is in my profile or whatever you want to call it on there. What else we have? We have Edge of Society. He's going to be stopping for some shrimp today, which is awesome. But Jim, what is your favorite shrimp?
My favorite shrimp?
Besides the ones you eat.
I tell you what I like. My favorite is the Blue Dream. And I just love the Blue Dreams. I've had some success with them. But just for a visual point of view, to sit and watch them in my tank, they pop so nicely on the green plants and the moss balls. I just find it so relaxing. I had a Blue Dream shrimp tank with about 700 Blue Dreams in it at one time. And people would just come over and just poop themselves because it did so well for so long. And then, like everything good, something bad happened, and we were gone for the weekend. And my $25 heater crapped out and smelled like Red Lobster when we got home. Not good.
Blue Dream shrimp are my #1 selling item in the whole store. Out of everything in the store, it's this. Now, you brought up moss balls, too. And I try and tell people you can't get moss balls anymore. And everybody's like, yeah, you can. And I'm like, you can't. Ever since the zebra mussels that got brought in, they just did away with them.
Yeah, I probably got about 50 moss balls at my house that I quit selling because when the zebra mussel thing was announced, I went through all my moss balls. I didn't find any, but I quit selling them immediately, and I pulled them from my store also. And so I've got 50, 60 moss balls at my home, but that's where they're going to stay because we can't allow invasive things like that to get into the local streams and rivers and stuff, which they already are.
Yeah, because it was zebra mussels that they were afraid of, and it was a local Petco up in Duluth, I do believe, first got spotted on that one right there, and then they started doing the swoop and inspecting the stores. Another thing, since we're talking about invasive, is Clark eye crayfish. So in Minnesota, the DNR did a huge swoop for wholesalers, for fish stores, for the Clark eye crayfish and the self-cloning crayfish. These are the crayfish that they advertised as like dwarf lobsters, fire reds, electric blues, fire and ice, all these different random colors, but they are the Clark eye family because they are invasive species. Do you have a lot of that up in your area?
No, the DNR did sweep up in our area too, and there was only one wholesaler, I won't mention who it was, that was selling them. And I think if you read any of the articles, you see that they got spanked pretty hard because they were warned numerous times to quit selling them. But nobody up here in the Northland. Last time I saw one of the clone, I call them lobsters, crayfish, I was at a show probably about 6 years ago, and somebody was selling them at the show. And that actually was the first time I'd ever seen the clone crayfish even offered anywhere. So
yeah,
it's unfortunate that we still have to protect our waterways because they can really take over. I mean, look what's happened with the amount of goldfish.
Right by me.
I know you, and over here by Fargo Moorhead. I know a couple of individuals that went out there and they came back with 500 6-inch goldfish, and the DNR knew they were there, but they can't it's kind of like a drainage ditch, unless it was a massive flood. It was over in North Dakota, and they couldn't get out of this area that they were at. And so the DNR were telling people about it so they would come and get them. And a lot of people went over and grabbed these big goldfish, and they were the brightest orange I'd ever seen. There's a huge amount of night crawlers, of all things, and worms just hanging off the side of the banks, and that's what these things were feeding on, and they were incredibly huge. And I don't know. I mean, they figured because the water level was so low going into the fall that they would all freeze out. That's what the DNR was hoping for, but they were actually keeping tabs on it. It was, like I said, North Dakota DNR, which is completely different than Minnesota DNR.
Yeah. So I know, like, the goldfish that happened it was Chaska, which is the city right next to where I live.
Yes.
We have some man-made lakes that they used to make bricks out of, and somehow someone threw some goldfish in there. It was a small story, maybe like 3-4 years ago, about, hey, don't do this, don't do this. Well, the DNR this year, I don't quote me on the numbers. I do believe harvested 3,000 goldfish. They tagged 1,200 of them and put the 1,200 back to see where they spawn, so they can try and. I mean, it's decimating our waterways in the Chaska area. So they compete for food with the local sunfish, crappies, northerns, and they don't really have a predator besides humans that actually go after them.
Yeah, I saw some pictures, and it was the DNR pickup was they had taken out 3 pickup loads.
Yeah.
Level. I mean, so you're talking a 4-foot by 8-foot pickup bed full to the top, and apparently they took out like 3 pickup loads. And depending on the size of the fish, that's tremendous if they got that many out of them. I think they took and used them for something useful like fertilizer or something like that. But
I'm looking up some of the pictures that are in here. So let me just see if I can go over, and I'm looking it up right now. So
yeah, on the Aquarium Guys podcast, we had interviewed the DNR up here in Detroit Lakes, and she had a lot of useful information about that, and had said, where they actually go out on hikes in the summer, and they find out all these different waterways that are just kind of like stagnant ponds, and they're actually staining these stagnant ponds, trying to see if there's any invasive fish in there.
So here's the edge. I do believe it's. Let me just make sure it's popped up. Yeah, but there it is. So here's the edge of the water, and then here's that truck.
Wow, that's a tremendous amount of fish, man.
Look, this is all goldfish.
Yeah. Pretty good size too, the way it looks.
Yeah. So not only the man-made lake actually streams down into the Minnesota River as well. So that's where they're trying to stop this, because if it's high tide, it could flood back down to the Minnesota River and get all over the place.
Backwash, yeah. That's always the concern of fishing.
Look at that truck right there. Look at that truck. It's completely full. That's a full-size truck.
Yeah. And so very concerning. I mean, good job for the DNR, but they've got better things to do than go out and pick up goldfish. Keep your damn goldfish out of the ponds, man.
Look at all those. That right there has got to be thousands upon thousands right there. Just hauled or tightly knit.
So there's a guy that raises.
That's more.
Jesus Christ. Yeah, there's a guy down in southern Minnesota that was told to quit raising koi because the problem was that he didn't have nets over his koi ponds, and eagles would come in and grab a koi, and if the eagles got startled, they would drop the fish, and if they were over another body of water, then all of a sudden you go from this guy's pond to this guy's river, because his water system is coming through from the river the way he had it set up. So they told him he either had to net all his ponds or he had to get out of the business. I don't know whatever happened.
Yeah.
There.
It's kind of like everybody always wonders why, if there's small ditch, how can there be minnows in there? How can be this? Birds fly in there. We're going to pop this one up right here. Boom. Thanks, Lori. Birds fly in like ducks, and they land there, and then when they're swimming, the eggs can attach to their feet. And when they fly into another pond and they lay in there, the eggs fall back off, and that's how they end up, that's how everything gets spread.
a lot of things are crazy. Last night I was reading on my news feed. There is a monkey in a zoo that was pregnant. She was kept by herself the whole time, and they couldn't figure out. But after watching some video and stuff, the monkeys were mating through a hole in the fence. So I mean, you give nature a chance, they're going to find a way to procreate and make babies. So
same as humans.
Great. Yeah. Well, so you're telling me you've done it through a fence, Joe? Come
on. I'm not vanilla. I'll tell you that right now.
You know, you're talking about all the different platforms that you're on. I didn't hear you say Grindr, so that was good.
Wow, Grindr! Wow. See, this
the old
is
guy comes up with
Jim. Jim is an easy person to get along with, and we can fire stuff back and forth. I know Tyler Volk from Minnesota Planetane says he wants to see more of my funny side. I'm like, well, it's really hard being funny when you're by yourself in the room.
Nobody wants to see you naked, Joe.
Huh?
Nobody wants to see you naked.
I know.
It's in your funny side.
It is what it is. I got my Hogwarts shirt on. My daughter loves it, so boom. That's all that matters here. And we got someone on Facebook laughing. They're like, LOL. So, but no, I love work. Go ahead.
I'm just trying to be well behaved and also used to our podcast where we call each other bad names. That I'm just trying to behave myself on your podcasts. Thank you for.
Yeah, I used to sponsor you guys. I loved working with you guys. So what happened was I paid for some of the advertisements, the episodes, and then what we allowed is we allowed the viewers to come up with the commercials. Now, some of the commercials
that was a mistake.
Some of the commercials were a little bit risque, if I can say. Actually, I had one specific person come into my store when there was a kid here. And with her mom, and started talking about my cholla wood, because that was the biggest thing we did. Don Cholla, Joe's got the best wood. He'll give it to you by the inch. He'll give it to you by the pound. And he came there and he inappropriate conversations with her mom there. And it's unfortunate where it's like, he's like, well, she didn't understand. I'm like, she didn't, but her mom did. So unfortunately, we try to reel it back in, but because we allowed it for so long, it's hard to get it back in when everybody's so used to it. But that's how it is. And I know we've been talking, for something in the future and stuff. We just haven't done anything, which is completely fine. We'll just take it one day at a time.
One day at a time, sweet Jesus.
Yes, sweet baby Jesus. It was so funny because we were the number. So I went to Les from Cobalt, and I said, hey Les, I said, if you look up cholla wood, I'm the number one online for cholla wood. He goes, you know why? And I said, why? He goes, for one, it's cholla wood. Two, you guys are spelling it wrong. That's why you're the number one person.
Wow.
I'm like, I'm from Minnesota. It's cholla.
You're a dumbass, Joe. So congratulations, you're number one.
Hey, still works though. Little update on him. Don Cholla, who is up there in age, his son got into a motorcycle accident. Totaled out his bike maybe about a month ago. He's been through 5 surgeries. He's trying to recover. So Mr. Don Cholla's on hold right now for cutting any more wood until his son starts recovering. So everybody keep it in his prayers. Lori, I also want to tell you that our other moderator, I did hear back from him. He had some medical issues, severe medical issues, where it's almost like he didn't have I don't want to quote what he had, but he's going through a stuttering process where it's almost like he had a stroke. So he's in our thoughts and our prayers for fast recovery. If anything that he needs, he can ask for it. That's why he hasn't. That's a jail not here. So if anybody's here, Lauren, if you can look it up, the jail not here. If you can put a link to his YouTube one. I know he doesn't have a lot of followers, but I know he likes seeing the followers on there. So it's jail not here. Lori will come up with the link and we'll put it up here, but let's keep him in our thoughts. Let's keep Don Cholla, his son, in our thoughts as well. So
yeah, it's unfortunate. I mean, we all have lives outside of our little hobbies and fish nerd things that we do, and that's what's about being part of this community. Is that everybody's got your back, and I love it.
yeah, and that's what the biggest things. I remember when I first got into it, we had someone that was going to shows passed away, and I made a dedication tank for him, and that's what really got me into it. Is that I did a dedication tank for Mr. Finney. Mr. Finney was all around. I mean, it was kind of nice little bonsai tree. He was into Vikings, so I had a little Viking Lego man that I had. That Viking Lego man cost me a lot of money because they didn't make that many of them. So, but no, that's what I like about this hobby is a lot of people come in my store and there's like, I've been to a lot of different stores before, but I like talking to you because you're honest about it. The group here, so we're Minnesota nice, but I'm always like, I'm a very blunt person, but I'm still Minnesota nice. I still treat people nice. And Jim does the same thing. Like he's looking at me like, yeah, wait till I burn you again, Joe.
I'm gonna. You're talking about going into other pet stores. I'll tell you one quick little story.
Yep.
No matter where you're at, this will date the story. So I was in Florida with a buddy of mine, Mark Sparby, who owned Pet North up in Bemidji, Minnesota, and he and I went to the big show in Florida, which was usually like in around March, because for about 3 years we went in a row, and I missed my ex-wife's birthday for 3 years because right around that March 16th time. And this tells you how old it was. Mark and I decided one day we were going to go visit a bunch of pet stores. So we went to the local phone booth. And for you kids who don't know what a phone booth is, it's a big box on the corner. And we tore out the pages from the yellow pages to go find all the pet stores, because this is before you could have smartphones and you could, Google stuff and follow your maps on Google Quest. And we went to probably about 20 pet stores in a day. And no matter where you went, every goddamn pet store had at least one good idea that I'd never thought of. And we were probably in one of the crappiest pet stores in that area. And this guy had, as a pet store, you're selling fish, you're selling equipment. He's also selling crickets, for lizards, for all our little lizard friends. And people came in and they would grab the crickets. He'd come in half an hour early every day, and he would pre-bag crickets because people didn't want to wait for crickets. And he says, I'll make people come in at the same time. And his cricket sales were keeping the lights on, he told us, because he'd come in every day and he would put in 2 dozen or 3 dozen or 5 dozen crickets in a bag, put oxygen, and he had a potato chip clip strip, and he would just hang them there, and people would come in. And I thought, that's amazing. And when we went back to Minnesota, I told a couple of my stores about that, and they thought I was crazy. And they said, most of them did it on a Saturday when a lot of their people came in, and they'd come in and, all they wanted was, 3 dozen crickets. And he said it would take away. He said, I'd go with a customer and I'd end up BSing with them because I'd lose a sale on a puppy or I'd lose a sale on a goldfish, And so he said, most of those stores continue doing that to this day. And like I said, this is a really bad pet store, but it had one great idea. So it's always good just to walk through anybody's store and just get something, one good thing, and your day is made. And I can't tell you how often I go into stores and just see things that I go, oh, that makes total sense. I wish I'd done that years ago.
Yeah. Like when I was out in New Jersey, I went to a store and the people were nonstop coming in for crickets, like nonstop. I'm super like OCD about cleanliness here. So like me having crickets and one getting out, I'd be freaking out about it. So I couldn't do that, but everybody kind of likes, like, I hang the wood from my ceiling and everybody's like, oh my God, this is super ingenious. Now I got that idea from Tyler Volk. He went out to either Washington or Oregon and he had a store that actually hang wood on the side, which is nice because 1, people don't break the wood when they're going through it. 2, you can display more, and 3, it gives a cool look. So
right.
we have, I'm gonna show us this. We have one question for shrimp, so let's get this on this here. So it's lots of questions. This is from Sibley Warrior 07. If someone was new to breeding shrimp, should they focus on one color or / strain, or a variety of different strains or colors. Now, this is what I kind of tell people. If you're getting into the basic shrimp, which is like the Neocaridina and Davidii, it's good to practice on one, because if you take all these colors and you mix them together, it's like mixing paint. It goes back to a wild color. So I kind of tell people, like, you should practice on one and perfecting one. Like cherry shrimp. There's like, you got cherry, you have pure grade, you have fire, you have painted fire red. You have all these different lines and different colorations of lighter red and more red and red on the legs. That if you want to actually start perfecting stuff, that's what I would do. If you're looking more into, hey, I want to breed for profit, what you should do is go to a local fish store that's by you and see what sells good for them. Because to be honest, like if someone said, hey Joe, I'm breeding a lot of cherry shrimp, can I sell them back to you? I'm going to tell them what my wholesale price is, and they're going to be like, yeah, I don't want to do that, because there's not that much money in cherry shrimp. But now blue dreams, they're more money. Same as green jade, same as sunkiss, same as yellow. It just depends on the strand. What do you think, Jim?
I totally agree. Unless you're doing, a little feng shui 3-gallon tank on your desk, and you want, one of each color, and you're not into breeding them, and you're just into looking into them on your desk, I think that's fantastic. But I'd like to keep all my different colors and varieties separate and keep a true strain, or as true as you can get.
Yep.
Now, I have a quick question for you, Joe, and I know you've explained it to me one time before, but what's the difference between a cherry shrimp and a Bloody Mary?
All right, so it's a whole entire different subspecies of shrimp. So you have the Neocaridina Davidii, which is the cherry shrimp, and then there's one that starts with a Z. It's like this line has like 4 vowels, and I just call it the Z shrimp. So if you look at the concept of a shrimp, so a cherry shrimp is more red on the outside, like the shell, where a Bloody Mary is more red all the way through the whole entire shrimp, if that makes sense.
Okay. I know you explained it to me before, but sometimes you have to tell the fourth grader.
Yeah,
things twice.
And this is where it's tough, because like if someone comes into my store, like I don't carry Sulawesi shrimp. I just don't carry Sulawesi shrimp due to the fact of you have to have a very well-established tank, and you have to let this tank go for a long period of time before you put Sulawasis in there. Now, it's hard enough for me to tell someone, hey, you got to wait 30 days before you put shrimp in there. Now you want me to tell them they have to wait 6 months. So that's why I don't carry Sulawasis. But now on the Neo side, if I said, hey, technically there's 4 different types of Neocaridinas out there, they'd be like, what? I said, there's a Davidii, there's Palamitos on there, there's Catagalon, and then there's a Z shrimp, which is that long. People get really confused. So I try and make it really simplistic for them at the store, saying don't mix the colors. But if you like to mix the colors, tell me the colors that you like, and then I can go from there. So then if they say, well, I want a blue one and I want a red one, and then I can start trying to mix things up a little bit. So, and then, yeah, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Oh, and then I was gonna touch base on on the Caridina side. So now, if you did the Caridinas on there, there's some shrimp that you could mix together. You could do the black King Kongs, blue bolts, and you could do the shadow pannas, because a black King Kong is black and white. A blue bolt is usually blue or blue and white, and if you mix those two together, you get a shadow panna, which is blue and black. Now, some people want specific strains of colors. No. My rule of thumb is on the Caridina side, keep the darks and the lights with the lights. So don't mix the red with the blue. Don't mix the yellow with the blue. It's just one of those things where a color is over dominating to the other one for the genetics. But if you do, you don't get the muddy brown color. So on Caridinas, it's different. Caridinas, if you take a yellow King Kong and mix it with a blue bolt, you're either going to get a yellow King Kong or you're going to get a blue bolt. It's one of those things that you just kind of like get. Now, there's different subspecies of that too. So there's like the crystal red. So if you took a crystal red shrimp and you mix it with the blue bolt, that red on the shrimp is going to turn to a brownish color, and it's called a Michelin. So I'm just trying to like everybody else here. By the way, this is JL's one. So if nobody's like following along, everybody like join. This was my other moderator right here. He's having some medical issues right here, and I think he'd be ecstatic to all of a sudden get notifications that people are following him right here. JL's super cool. He does a lot of dog videos. So let me just kind of say hi to some people here. We got the Nano Aquarium guy. Hi. Let's see. When people say choose pattern, what kind of pattern are you looking for? So that all depends. So like on the Caridinas, it can go by pattern. Like like pintos would go by pattern. Galaxy fish bowls would go by pattern. Crystal reds would go by pattern. So like there's like I'm going to take for instance the crystal red Honora. So the back of the shrimp, if you look up top looking straight down, it's a white body with a red dot. So it's like the Japanese flag. So they call it the Honora. And then they have a no entry, which has a cross through that sign. So that's what they mean by patterns on it. It's like if you're going for more like a Honora or a no entry, you take all those specific traits that you like and you put it in a different tank and you try and breed them back and not allowing like tiger's tooth, the one that jagged come up from the bottom and stuff. Not that in your tank. So that's what they mean by picking out certain patterns you like. Okay, so now we go. More into breeding for profit. I live in Minnesota. Been into your store a few times. I have red wines and shadows. We texted about this, but best moss that's tamed for shrimp. Just set up 2 new tanks. So I like using Christmas moss. Christmas moss, the fronds look more like a Christmas tree going down, and when they grow out, they kind of go heavy and they fall down. Versus Java moss can grow upwards towards the light. What do you think, Jim? Easiest moss.
I agree. I like Christmas moss a lot better. And Christmas moss is not easy to get a hold of. I've got wholesalers, and they very seldom have Christmas moss.
FYI, I got a kilogram coming Thursday. You want some?
Oh, so yeah. If you guys are looking for some moss.
A kilogram of moss is 2.5 pounds. Literally, it's the size of a freaking pillow coming, like packed full. I ordered it. It's coming on Thursday. Not this Thursday. The following Thursday, because I have a lot of red plants. A lot of like I have chai coming. I have a lot of unique plants coming for my new aquascape I'm doing. But I have literally a pillow bag full of Christmas moss coming. If you're interested,
I tell you what, I might have to stop by there too.
I got your wood still in the back, buddy.
I know. And you keep throwing me under the bus when I pick up my woods. When I came back from Mexico in December, we landed in Minneapolis on a Friday night about 7:00, and we stayed overnight at my wife's cousin's house and went out for dinner. And then Saturday morning, I was going to come visit you. And I look at your hours, and you open up at what, noon? Noon, Joe? Noon?
I'm here earlier, though.
Noon, Joe.
So Aaron,
noon.
This is what people say.
Oh, my God.
People go like this. How do I prevent tons of algae in my tank? I'm like, limit your light, less food.
Turn off the light.
So my store is open 5 hours a day. It's because I don't have algae in my tank. That's the one thing. If algae starts going, it's hard to start like eradicating it out of there. But hey, guess what? I tell people if you're making a distance, you can call me. I can get there earlier. I can stay later. Saturday we have new hours, 11 to 7.
Now.
Now, let me show you what I got for you. Hold on a second. Let me show you what I got.
Oh, man, please keep your clothes on. Just keep your clothes on. That's all I want. You never know what the hell Joe's going to do. It always scares me a little bit. He's going to come back with a bag of Krispy Kreme donuts.
Literally have a box full of
Krispy Kreme donuts.
Literally,
what's in the box, Joe?
Your cholla wood. Cholo!
And this cholla wood that you got me,
yeah,
is not the traditional 6-inch cholla wood.
Nah, it's not what I normally give you guys. Little pun right there. These are the bits and pieces that you wanted. So these, I give it to you by the inch or by the pound. It doesn't matter. I just give it to you.
Yeah.
So these are the bits and pieces that you wanted. So Don Choya normally cuts them at whatever length you want, 3-inch, 6-inch, 9-inch, whatever you want. And then he takes all these extra pieces and he throws them in a separate bin. I literally said, instead of throwing in a bin, please throw it in this box and we'll take them. So he gave us a little bit better deal because it's his scrap. So he charges for the shipping on there and then a little bit for the pieces of wood. It's really not that much. Let me get this question. Oh, wait. So TJ Moa 1 hour says, when people choose, say, chase pattern, what kind of pattern are you looking? Oh, wait, I missed the whole question right here. I got that one here. For prof, here it is right here. So from people, boa shrimps, it's more about the color and the pattern, what you want. So on boa shrimps, it's more for the pattern. So a boa shrimp is a nice back line, and then they have the blotches on their face. It's about the big ones. So you're not going with Galaxy, which is super small. You're going for the boas, which are the bigger patterns. And how on the boa shrimps, it goes by how many patterns or how many spots. So like when you choose a boa, let's say you're buying a boa shrimp, and my breeders go over and say, well, do you want 3 to 5 spots? Do you want 8 to 10 spots? That's how many spots that are on his head. So 3 to 5 spots is usually like a low to medium grade. 8 to 10 is like a little bit bigger because it's more blotching on there. It's super cool. So
did you call that a boa, Joe?
A boa. My boas are pregnant at the store. I got 2 boa shrimp that are pregnant. So I love it. I just took them out the other day. The aquarium high.
You know, people are asking about profitability and how to make money. Do the unusual. And when I said that, it reminds me of a story. You just said boa. People, these reptile breeders, are coming up with these crazy patterns on snakes, and they're getting $8,000 to $10,000 a snake. And I mean, Steve Rubicki from Angels Plus, we had him on one of our first podcasts, and he goes to me, he goes, I'd rather sell you, a pair of angelfish for $400 than sell you 400 angels at $1. He said it's just a lot less work. Yeah. And and calling stuff. And when you said boa, some of these boa constrictors are white and black. They look like a Holstein cow. They're white and brown. And people are getting on airplanes and they're flying to different breeders, and they're buying these high-end snakes for $10,000, $12,000, and then going home with them and putting them in their breeding program. And you don't need to sell 1,000 shrimp. Quality shrimp.
Yeah, we kind of broke in a little bit at the end, but yeah, you were saying that you don't need to buy 1,000 shrimp. You just need to buy a few that are $1,000 for the high-end shrimp. That's what I kind of tell people. I tell people, like, look, if you want to do, I'm going to take the boa shrimp, okay? Because that's what we're talking about. If you want to breed a boa, do you start from the beginning and take the 4 or 5 years to go get that one, or do you just go over and go buy a really nice boa and try and breed those out? That's kind of up to you. Some people want to have the genetics of doing this, but who knows where you sit in 3 years? 3 years, you can be like, dude, I'm done with this project. I don't want to do this no more. Because you get frustrated.
Right.
This is Jess. Yeah. I know who this one is. She goes, I've been cycling a tank for about 4 weeks. There's suddenly worms in there, and my ammonia is still at 1. Should I be concerned? So the worms you're talking about is detritus worms. More likely it's detritus. The little squiggly worms and all over the place right here. I can't tell you how they get into an aquarium. Tim, can you?
What we've learned is that from what we're understanding, let me take you back a few years ago. I used to work for a grocery store for a good number of years, and people would come in during the summer with a bag of flour, and they go, this flour's got beetles in it. And anyway, no matter what type of flour you have, they cannot get the bug eggs out of there. So given the time and the humidity and the temperature, these beetles will hatch. It doesn't matter if you've got gold medal flour or if you've got great value flour, they're going to hatch. Same thing with the detritus comes from the flake food that you use. So if you're using flake food and the temperature is right and that flake food lays on the bottom, it will hatch, and then you'll have a bloom of detritus.
Yep. And if a cycling tank too, it could be in the soil. It could literally be any place. We don't know 100% where these like you could have RO water, brand new RO water, put into a brand new tank. And I understand that soil, certain soils that you end up using is heated to 800 degrees and it's sealed. But guess what? Sometimes we just don't know what happens, but it happens. It's kind of like those little arthropods in the aquariums, the little bugs that kind of flitter around and stuff like this. It happens, and the thing is, it's not bad at all. So those little worms, the little worms, if your tank is cycling, okay, so they're going to dissipate in time, okay. Your ammonia is still at 1. I get that. It's going through a cycle. It's taking a little bit longer than what it normally does. Stop. Don't be frustrated with it. Just let it be. Let it be. Let it be. Let it be. Just kidding.
I tell you, if you got a bunch of detritus and it's driving you crazy,
put a fish.
Go out and buy 2 or 3 neons and throw in there for for 3 days, and they'll eat them all up. Me and Tetris just love those little worms.
I always tell people never put fish in a cycling tank. This is it's ammonia can burn their gills, damage them, and stuff like this. I do the fishless cycle. There's many different ways to cycle a tank. I believe in the fishless cycle. That's what I believe in. That's what I teach people.
Fishless cycle.
So, fishless cycle. I know you're super old school. So, last question. You said there is no calls for Caridina Taiwan bees, but there's AS, double S, triple S, etc. Is there a low grade triple S versus a high grade triple S if I have an extreme that is a lower grade than SSS? All right. So a lot of times what he's talking about is when you start purchasing higher end shrimp, you start grading them. So there's a difference between like a Blue Bolt A grade. So it's got blue in the head, white on the body. Okay. Then you have could be like S grade, which is blue in the head, blue on the body, but still has some white in there. And then you start going, majority blue is SS, and then you got extreme, which is triple S. But the thing is, people start looking at the legs then. If you start looking at lower grade SS and higher grade SS, they start looking at the legs and the patterns on the legs. It's have the spider look to it, have more clear on there. And that's where it's like, go by what you like. If you're trying to go over and breed shrimp for profit to sell at a store, I'm going to be honest with you, that higher triple S grade is not going to get you any more money than what the double S was. Because the average store, they take their wholesale list. And they say, what do you got? You got blue bolts? I can get them for this much a piece. And you're like, well, you don't understand. This is triple S. And they're like, they don't know any better. They're just like, well, according to this, I can get it for this price right here. And they don't understand. So that's where you have to start educating stores, but it can be a little bit frustrating because a lot of stores, they're not going to spend that kind of money for high-grade triple S ones because, I'm going to be honest, I have boas. I sell boas here, but if I went over and sold boas to another fish store, do you think the average customer is going to come in there and say, hey, I want that $1,000 shrimp? They're not.
Nope.
They're going to say, hey, I'm kind of new in this Caridinas and stuff. Can I get that $7 shrimp? So that's where you have to start looking into what the market is. But the problem you have with the market is the market fluctuates. What's popular now is not going to be popular in 6 months. Point in fact, I go down to Iowa and I give talks all the time down in Iowa. I usually bring products down there for people. So let's say someone down there wants 20 orange rillies. He goes down to 20 orange rillies, starts breeding them out. Next time I come down a year later, nobody wants orange rillies because this gentleman bred the crap out of them and sold them to everybody there. So now they want a different color. So that's why things change over time.
That happens with everything. In the pet industry, people were breeding hamsters, and you could buy a wholesale hamster for $3. And now I don't think you can touch a hamster for under $18 wholesale.
Yeah.
And because people have gotten in, they've gotten out so many times, and it all depends on in the market of demand.
Yep.
What's available.
Well, look at Jen from New Wave Aquaria. She started off in St. Cloud, Minnesota. She didn't start with fish. She started breeding hamsters in her room, and she flooded. There's articles. She flooded the St. Cloud market with hamsters, literally flooded them. And then she started doing aquatic maintenance and stuff. And then she started building her empire. I call it an empire because that's what it is. She started building it up, but it came from a niche. Like if you would have asked me back in 2017 when I started my business, Joe, do you think you're going to have a fish store in less than 4 years? I've been like, no, I'm just going to do this out of my house. Look, I found a niche. I'm good at it. So
exactly. Right now we've been doing in our house is we are getting into high-end guppies, and right now that's what we're working on, and because there's a demand for it,
yeah,
and I can go through it pretty quickly.
Yeah, I mean, I have some decent guppies here, but I'm not known for guppies. So I get the few stragglers that come in here, and I'm like, hey, I got snow white trios. I got red head, red cap, red tail trios. I got white tuxedos. Nobody's really I'm not known for it. So people come there. Crane.
Yeah.
So
there's a train across the track here.
Yeah. Here's
Sorry
Jake
about that.
Jake Helmendollar. When checking TDS, should I make sure the TDS of a remineralized replacement water is correct or adjust the tank to reading? Example, if the tank TDS is 220, should I remineralize RODI to 180? This is how I do my water changes. I have my set number. Let's say it's 220. 220 to 300 for my neocaridines. I keep it at 220. Okay. If I take water out, I add fresh RO to it, and then I take my TDS meter and I remineralize after the fact. Due to the fact of if your water parameters are already screwed up, let's say I want exactly 220 in my aquarium. That's what I want. It's 220. No ands, ifs, or buts about it. 220. If all of a sudden my water parameter is screwed up where it's at 280 and I already have remineralized water over here, you take the water out, you put more remineralized water in there, it's always going to be off. But if you go over remineralized after the fact, it helps a lot easier if you're trying to get a specific TDS reading on there. So a TDS is totally dissolved solids. It's the remineralizers that are in your water that it reads. But now if you also fertilize, that can also be read in there as well. What do you think, Jim?
Yeah, it's one of the best tools you can have in your toolbox. A TDS meter isn't that much money, and if you treat them well, they'll last you a long time. I've had TDS. I've killed enough fish in my day, and before I had a TDS meter, I love playing a tank, and I've had some swings and water parameters that actually took off the fish just from a water change, and it was aged water, but the water had gotten so bad that I gave a little good water, and it puked out on me.
Yeah, and sometimes
that's why a lot of people, a lot of the professionals, they have drip systems and stuff, and they dial it in. It's just incredible what people will do because people hate doing water changes, and I'm one of them.
Yeah.
I think it's very honest. I have a friend up in the Brainerd area, and he works for a multi-millionaire, and they produce probably $50,000 worth of coral a month. And they take their water parameters so serious that they take their water and they send it to a company in Germany.
Yep.
And get it tested weekly. And that's not cheap, people. But but there again, they found a high-end market for these corals, and they've got corals that nobody else has in the U.S. And people are lining up to get these corals, and I know where they're sending them, and they probably seriously have $500,000 in equipment. But this is a point now where he's taking this so serious. This guy that he hired my friend to take care of this tank, and that's all he does is take care of this tank. 40 hours a week. So it all depends on.
There's the difference between saltwater and freshwater. Saltwater. Right. So on freshwater, if you have a mistake, you can kind of fix that mistake, and you have a little bit of time to fix the mistake. When it comes to saltwater and corals, that little mistake, your tank could die within a few hours. Like it can start like and it's happened before. I've seen it where people's tanks they call it nuking. Because it's like an avalanche. Something starts happening and it starts going really fast, and it's tough to figure out what's wrong with it. So they do have these test kits that you can actually purchase. You take a sample of your water, you enter it in the computer, and you send it off, and you get an email back, and it says a full reading of what happens in there. It's by a professional laboratory. A lot of times we've used it before. I'm going to go and use it. I'm trying to think which tank I wanted to test it on. So I have tests in my tank too. And sometimes I only can test for certain things. I can test TDS, ammonia, nitrate, and I can test for iron and everything else like that. But when it comes down to it, where it's like you're having random deaths, you just know what's going on, do a soft restart is what I say. So
yeah, I tell you, when we used to raise angelfish by the thousands, when an angelfish decides it's going to get sick, it turns its back to you and puts its nose in the back corner. And as soon as I would see a tank, a pair of fish not come up to the front of the tank to get fed, unless they were sitting on eggs back there on the wall or something, I would do a water change immediately. And just by doing water changes, they would snap out of it. And so you learn these little tricks of your livestock. I mean, people who raise, doesn't matter what you raise, if it's cattle or horses, you know when you're even your pets, you know when your dog's not feeling well because he's not acting like he's. So then, if you immediately jump on it, you can save that animal and save yourself a big headache. Some of the best advice I ever got from a guy, his name was Paul Norton, and he owned a place in Tampa Bay, and it was called Tampa Bay Norton's Tampa Bay Fisheries. And he told me, he said, Jim, he said, you can keep a healthy fish healthy, but you can't get a sick fish healthy. And he says, water changes, water changes, water changes. And, you know, up until that point, I was having so much trouble because I was wholesaling and doing what all the books told me. And I took the time and I took a week off of work and I went down to Florida to talk to all these people. I went to 5D, I went to Seagrass Farms, I went to Paul Norton, I went to several Lyle's Tropical Fish, and they all said the same thing. You know, water's cheap. Why are you not, you know, if you're not in this business to get wet, why are you not getting wet? So water change is just, you know, it's just like vacuuming your floor. Yeah.
It's one of those, like, I have my employees and they'll be like, I can get caught up in the water changes. I'm like, you're never getting caught up in water changes. Because when you think you're all caught up in water changes, guess what? You have to go back to the beginning and do another water change. It's a fact of life. Here's another question: is actually if I use Startup Nano, do I have to put the shrimp in sooner, or can I still wait the 2, 3, 4 weeks? I added 4 red wines to the tank, set up 3 days ago, and so far so good. But just curious. All right, so every tank has to go through a nitrate cycle. It has to. The problem you end up having is when you have shrimp, they're very susceptible to that cycle. So a lot of times fish can survive that, but on shrimp they can't because they don't like that ammonia. Now, there is products out there, which I have the Protobio Startup, which binds with the ammonia on there, but it still goes through the cycle. So normally, like I would tell people, you need to wait 3-4 weeks until the ammonia is when the nitrite with an I is all the way down to 0, and the ammonia is at least 0.25 and less, and the nitrate is lowered. That's when you add shrimp. But there's ways you can trick it, like a seeded filter. A seeded filter has a lot of bacteria, which can speed up your cycle on there too. And that's where it's tough because, like, even if you're using RO water, it still has to go through a cycle. And a lot of times, this is what people don't have is patience in this hobby. Nobody ever has patience. They set up an aquarium and they want fish in there like right away. I want fish today. I want fish tomorrow. Patience. Just allow your tank to go through the cycle. I mean, if you want to put stuff in there right away and if it dies off, you can't go over and say, why did it die? I just don't know why. It went through a cycle. You have to be patient. I had someone that came in last night that set up a tank 2 days ago, went over and put a betta in there, and now their tank is all cloudy. Going through a bacteria bloom because now the bacteria found a food source, which is the betta pooping, and it's constantly chasing the cycle because it's constant food source for them. It's all about being patient. Allow the tank to go through it. If you don't have patience, I'm going to be honest. Like, this hobby is not really the hobby's made for patience. If you don't have patience, this hobby teaches you patience. But if you're not a very patient person, you're going to have issues, and then you're going to come to us as experts, and we're going to tell you what you need to do. But if you don't have patience, it's going to be hard, right?
That's why you need multiple tanks.
Yep. Multiple tanks. Yeah, that's a good point. Good point right there. If you have only one tank, you're constantly like this.
Mm-hmm.
But if you have multiple tanks, like, I'm going to be honest. Like, here's the question. Blue Dream's not growing very large. What causes the problem? Lack of food, lack of water changes. The thing is, I have so many tanks that I don't even know what's breeding until I start looking in tanks. I'm like, damn, I got 500 babies in here. You know, just because I don't mess with tanks. If you have an issue with your tank, don't find a solution for that issue. Find out what's causing this issue and fix that. I have a lot of algae in my tank. I need to go buy liquid carbon. There's no such thing as liquid carbon. It's glutamaldehyde. It's anti-algicide. Unless you physically inject CO2 in there, there's no CO2 going in there. Well, how about we do this? How long do you have your light on for? How often are you feeding? How often are you doing water changes? Are you cleaning your substrate? If you're not doing plants only need 4 to 5 hours a day. That's all they need. If you're keeping your lights on for 12 hours a day, you're going to get algae in your tank. It's just going to happen. And then you're going to be like, well, I don't know what to do. I just told you, lessen your light. If you want to have it on for 6 hours a day, try 3 hours on, 1 hour off, 3 hours on. Give it a siesta time. So, holy feedback, Batman. Yep. So we have another one from Sibling Warrior. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, on our podcast, we take our questions and stuff too from people, and a lot of times we don't have the answer, but somebody listening has the answer.
Yes.
So I encourage you, if you got a better answer, than to spout out. But when everybody always starts out and we talk about it, everybody's trying to flex their muscle, and the first thing they say is, "Well, I've got 30 tanks," and what we call 30 tanks is a nice start.
Yeah.
So, somebody calls, I got 30 tanks and I've been breeding, guppies or platies or personals, plecos. And we go, that's a nice start. Once you have 100 tanks and chime in.
My favorite is like when Facebook, we used to be able to sell fish and shrimp on Facebook on auction sites. Then they came out with the algorithm that you can't sell livestock, and then everybody went to ban. So I hopped on ban. I really never used it that much. And I went in one of these forums, and someone was asking questions, and I'm giving my feedback. Now, I opened the page not as Joe Shrimpshack, but as Joe Tyson. And I went over and I was giving my feedback, and someone says, "You don't know what you're talking about, Joe." And I'm like, "How many tanks do you have?" And they're like, "I have 3 tanks. I've been doing this for 3 months. I know what I'm talking about." I'm like, and I quickly went over and I went to the admin, and I'm like, you know what, maybe this ban thing isn't mine, because someone that has a tank for 2 weeks thinks they're an expert on something, and they're just giving wrong information. Now, the internet has a lot of information out there. Jim, are you there? Or are you frozen? Jim's frozen with him staring out the window. So Google has a lot of good information. It has a lot of bad information. I will say that right now, because there's actually YouTube videos where the guy actually says add milk to your planted aquarium to add calcium to it. I don't agree upon that. So it's all about just going over and finding someone that you trust. Find a local person that you trust that is doing very well at it. And when I say very well at it, it doesn't mean that they've been doing it for 3 weeks, 4 weeks. Like the lady that came in here yesterday, she was just like, hey, I do this. I watch this on YouTube. I'm like, I have a YouTube site too. Like I give talks weekly about this. Well, I wanted someone that does aquascapes. I do aquascapes too. Well, this guy is more, I compete. Like I've won. Like I help people out. And then a lot of information that she was hearing was kind of conflicting, but guess what? It happens. Just find something you trust and go with it. So I'm going to kind of go down these questions quick. I have your red wines and shadow pannas and 2 to 3 other Caradinas. You need help breeding out. I love them all soul colors of breeding with. So here's the thing. If you start breeding out stuff, like you said, you have red wines and shadow pannas. So like if you were to sell me any of these at the time when I need them, I have to make sure that these are line bred. They cannot be in tanks with, like a red wine cannot be with shadow pannas. I would not accept it. Or if you did a tricky thing where you sold them to me and all of a sudden they bred out and all of a sudden this shadow panel popped out a red wine, it's one of those things where it's like, I wouldn't buy from you again because these need to be line bred. So people come to me for line bred items that aren't going to pop out different colors. And we can always talk about this. Jessica, I hope my tank is ready in 2 weeks. That's my 30th birthday. Well, congrats. Happy pre-birthday. That mom can get me for my Caradinas and my birthday. Yes. So just be patient with the tank. Like, you're not that far from it. We can always test your water. So here's the Aquarium Guys podcast once again. Jim kind of froze a little bit. All right, I'm going to pop this up in a second. So thanks, Joe, for answering my questions. I'll try to get by next week when that moss comes in. Anyone in Minnesota, please go to Joe's store. My kids love him, and I love kids. I love empowering the kids. So I love it when a kid comes in and I ask them what they want in their aquarium, and I empower them because I watch their eyes just light up. Yeah, he needs some water, or he needs some milk. What is the least popular Neo out there? The least popular at my store would be like a carbon really. The blue and black and the black and clear. It's just it's least popular, but I have them. Followed by snowballs, which I don't know why. I love the snowballs. It's me, Fish Guy Ranch. Perfect. So what I want to do is I want to pop up Jim's thing. So this is the Aquarium Guys podcast. I've been working with Jim and Rob's the other guy, and then you have Adam, which is another person on there as well. But guys, I want to thank you very much. I want to thank you guys very much for watching. If you haven't subscribed, hit the subscribe button. If you haven't become a member, become a member. I have a lot of good discounts for this. Come back to my store. I have new plants coming next Thursday. I got a lot of red plants. I understand it's after Valentine's Day, so I might do this after Valentine's Day special for these red plants. I'm working on a new aquascape in the store with Jack of All Aquariums. This is Instagram page. But please, guys, thank you for stopping. Thank you, Lori. Everybody go to jail, not here. I love you guys. I hope you have a shrimptastic day.